Don't you just love a book with this comfortable fantasy feeling? Hello everybody, welcome back to A Fictional Escapist. My name is Chris and today's video is the No Place for Peace book review by Tom Dumrell. This is book 2 in the Pillars of Peace series, a series which is concluding with its third installment coming out on June 16th, and I'll put a picture of the book up here. Now, I don't really feel a need to recap too much on book 1 of this series. It is a very classic fantasy feeling series and it's pretty easy to pick up where we left off. If you are interested in the review for book 1, I'll pop that up in the cards and you can check that out first if you want to. No Place for Peace picks up just weeks after the event of The Look of a King, with our main protagonist Cyrus venturing out into Simeon's keep to basically be thrown into the dungeons as previously agreed. When he gets there, he is instead met with some compassion and given a task to find Simeon's long-lost son before he falls further into the illness that has claimed him. In the name of keeping said peace, Cyrus agrees and tries to go and find the long-lost son, and any more of that will go into spoiler territory. Eventually, Cyrus comes home and he finds the very unlikable Princess of Verdura on his doorstep, threatening his new life and his new family. It seems like there is no place for peace after all. Once again, Dumrell's fast-paced plot draws the reader into this world, but the stakes are heightened with one party wanting peace and the others fighting for the Oldhaven throne. At no point does the reader need to wonder what is going to happen next. Each chapter pushes the audience further and further into this book and into this world, and we move from one event to the next very quickly. Book 1 does describe the nations of war or peace with one another. Book 2 takes this to a whole new level. The 4 nations of the quadrupole all play a much bigger role here, and we get to see it really unfold. What I love about second books in a series, even though some will fall victim to that middle book syndrome, is we get an expansion of the world a lot of times, and this is absolutely true here. This world becomes less about pockets of people that we hear from each of the parts of this quadrupole and becomes an actual world that we're in, which is really cool to see. The relationships and the political standing of each city and its leaders are further explored, giving this world a much bigger feel than we previously got in The Look of a King. Found in the second installment, the characters also develop quite a lot. We see new responsibilities, we see a shift of lifestyle come into play, we experience new acquaintances, friendships, shifting alliances, which can often be the case in these medieval fantasies, treachery, and ambitions through the eyes of our POVs. My biggest praise for the second installment of this book is how the author can build up a scene. Book 1 was full of twists and turns. Basically every chapter would throw me as a reader, and it would make me appreciate his ability to write up a scene, build the expectation, build the emotion, and then just completely rip it to shreds. And that is no different in this second book. He's got such a way of lulling me as a reader into a false sense of security and then just leaving me devastated. So if that's something that you like, if you like a bit of devastation in your books, then maybe have a look out for this one. That sounds weird. Not for fantasy readers though, does it? If you like devastation, then pick up this book. We're all used to it, right? The way that our emotions are toyed with within these pages is nothing short of masterful, but it does leave me, as a reader, a little bit distrustful of this author when things are going well, so it'll be interesting to see how that concludes in book 3. I have to admit, there have definitely been a few occasions where I thought to myself, this is very nice. I'm about to get gut punched, aren't I? Which apparently is just a thing that Mr. Dumrell likes to do to his audience. I would be remiss not to mention the romance in this book. I'm not a romance reader. I don't necessarily like romance in my fantasy. I don't mind little touches of it. You know, you've got to build relationships and you've got to build characters. But as a secondary plot line, I tend to shy away from it. But I know that a lot of fantasy has romance, and I like reading fantasy, so we jump in. This romance in the book Cyrus and significant other has me captivated. That's not something I can say very often. For someone that doesn't like romance, that's a feat for me to not only care about your characters, but I care about the romance aspect of it. The romance feels very new, it feels very sweet, it's reminiscent of the first time you felt your heart flutter at the sight of someone you fancied walking around out in the wild. It doesn't, but at the same time, it doesn't take away from the darker undertones that we get throughout the story, which I think is why I like it so much. It's because even though it's there and it is sweet and you have those moments of, aw, it doesn't take away from anything else, which is no easy feat, because I feel like a lot of the time one of those storylines will take over and the other will get pushed to the wayside, whereas here they work together pretty seamlessly. So instead of taking away from those darker undertones, it laces it with hope, and it's a reminder to us, particularly those of us who are married or in relationships, that even in the hardest of times, there is always something or someone to come home to, and that is really sweet to have that in a book like this, which feels very much like a devastating historical fiction / fantasy. To be able to come in and have that was nice. From about 40% of this book, like book 1, it got to a point where it just picked up. It's still fast-paced the entire way through, but I'd say for this book, at the 40% mark, I didn't want to put it down. And it was a very, very quick read from that 40% right until the end, and I had a very, very good time with it. Now, I do think that certain parts of this book could be a little bit more fleshed out. We could have gotten a little bit more of the world, a little bit more of the machinations between the political parties, because we did get that expansion of the world. I'm interested to see if that gets even bigger in book 3. Talking to Tom and looking at his updates, I think book 3 is significantly bigger than book 2, so I'm hoping that we do get some more world stuff fleshed out, but that's just me as a reader. Giving this one a rating, I sit at the 4.25, which I think is where I sat with book 1 if I remember correctly, so I didn't like it any less than book 1, which is good, but I also did want a little bit more from it to push it up to a 4.5 or a 5-star read for myself. That's it. Those are my thoughts on No Place for Peace, book 2 in the Pillars of Peace series by Tom Dumrell. Really looking forward to book 3, and I hope that you'll pick up this series. It is definitely one that could be binged book 1 through to book 3 very quickly and have a great time with it. If you like this content, give it one of these. If you want to see more of it, then click subscribe at your will, and I'll catch you in the next video. Ciao.